Well, first of all, congratulations to you. I think this is one of the best scores I've heard in years, and
Thank you.
and one thing I love about your music and what the directors do with your music is they make your score a leading character in the film. And you know, I've seen Man of Steel twice now, and every time both times I've seen it, your score is what emotionally is driving me through these sequences. But I heard a quote once from Steven Spielberg where he said that when you sit in a theater, they don't want you to think about how the movie is made. They want you just to be sucked into the world. But I find that listening to your scores helps drive the movie better. What is the balance for you as a score writer in having the audience notice the music but also not be distracted so much in the sense of that they know they're hearing music?
Well, I'm trying to create a sort of an autonomous world. I mean, and, you know, we did it in this one, but you know, even more in Dark Knight Rises, because by that point we were 3 movies in, and we knew what the world we were trying to create was. So I worked very closely with the sound effects team, for instance, you know, so that we created sort of a seamless sonic world. I know exactly what Stephen means by that. You know, for instance, one of the reasons I didn't want to use the John Williams theme is because when you heard the John Williams theme, you'd be going, "Oh, it's a John Williams theme," and you'd be taken out of the movie. You know, and it just became important that this was an autonomous movie in its own right. And Zach's vision is just so different anyway.
But what I love about the fact of what Zach did is I really do feel like he makes your score a leading character. So he finds a very interesting balance of allowing us to hear the music, but also not think to ourselves, "Oh, we're hearing music." He marries it so well with the action. Is that something that does he say to you, Mr. Zimmer? You know, your music is going to be at the forefront of these action scenes.
No, not really. It's sort of, you know, I write away, and then I on purpose don't turn up to the dub stage and just let the director do it, because otherwise, you know, I feel I'm sort of influencing it in the wrong way. But you know, it's entirely the director's choice, you know, how loud and how much. And you know, at the end of the day, it's a huge compliment to me when Zach lets it rip a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because that's the only time, you know, in one's insecurity where you actually go, "Oh yeah, he does like it." It did turn out all right.
Right. Well, I think it's an absolute masterpiece of a score, and it's crazy because you have me crying in the first 10 minutes of the movie. You know, I don't want to give anything away, but the theme you have in that opening sequence is just so unbelievably fantastic. So what I wanted to ask you is, the movie itself is told non-linearly. Do you, as a writer, write your scores out of story order, or do you write them in the order of the story itself?
No. I write them completely out of order.
Wow.
Except for I want to know what the first note is. And you know, on the soundtrack album, there's this sort of you know, my sketchbook, and that was literally how, you know, it was just me sort of in my own mind going through, you know, which way I thought that the music should be progressing, you know, with a couple of detours and a couple of wrong turns, of course. But you know, I try to get to the pivotal scenes, and then sometimes I go back to them. For instance, the scene you're referring to, and which we are now not going to go into any more detail.
Right.
And there comes a moment where originally it was a huge score, and then suddenly I thought, hang on a second, a solo violin would be so much more poignant here.
Right.
And I showed it to Zach, and it took all of half a second to convince him to turn all the sound effects down.
You know, it's absolutely brilliant. Now, one of the things I found fascinating about when you're going back to The Dark Knight is that single D note that you use for the Joker. And you mentioned starting off your scores with your first note. What was the first note you wrote for Man of Steel? What was the first note you wrote?
Actually, funny enough, and I went round this forever, but it ended up being at the first place, which is the Clark Kent theme, which is really his theme, you know, when he's with his parents in Kansas. And I heard it in my head when Zach was telling me the story. And then I sort of did that. Oh no, it can't be that easy, or it's too simplistic, or any of that stuff. And then at the end, just came back to that little piano melody because I knew it was of a moment, and it was true, and it was the right thing, and it was, I was doing the right thing because it was literally written in my head as Zach was telling me the story. So I was on story.
Right. Now, one of the things I found fascinating when I talked to you for The Dark Knight is you told me that underneath the actual sheet music, you would have words that would tell the musicians how to stress the note. So it would go from like calm.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what I wanted to ask you is this movie does have a rate, it almost like crescendos and goes up. Did you have words underneath the music in this film? And did you get to any curse words like you did in The Dark Knight where it said go F
Yeah, well,
nuts?
Exactly. That's what I was going to say to you. I can only repeat some of them.
No, you can't.
This is a really sad bit, but some of the other ones, but remember the musical dynamics are, P for pianissimo, and then forte, which is an F, and then you get two Fs, and once the F is involved, you can imagine where I'm going with it.
What is the most since we're not on the radio, what is the most explicit word you've ever put underneath your music?
Three fucks, like fuck. I think they all get it.
That's awesome.
And there has to there has to be some levity and some camaraderie and some joking and etc. While we do this stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, it just starts sounding, gets a little, clinical.
Now, my favorite movie of all time is True Romance, and I think one of the greatest stories ever is. I remember you were telling me that Tony Scott came to you and said, "Listen, Mr. Zimmer, we don't have any money. You have to create a score."
No, that's not true. He came to me with this great budget, and then when he finished shooting the movie, he came back and said, "I've spent all your money."
Right. So what I wanted to ask you is,
let's do that frequently.
You came up with a brilliant score for that movie without hardly any money. So what I wanted to ask you is, let's say hypothetically, I know this is not the case, but hypothetically, what if you had to write the Man of Steel score on a lower budget like you did for True Romance? I mean, like what differently? How differently would it have sound?
Not very. I would have been able to figure something out. It would have been more electronic. It would have been, technology has advanced so much. I was sort of thinking about it the other day. Over 40 minutes of the Dark Knight Rises score was basically created in my flat in London, in my bedroom. Right. I did it in my bedroom. I recorded, I recorded it. It's all done in a computer, and I mixed it in my bedroom. I was working on Sherlock Holmes, and I couldn't sleep at night. I had to sort of go over to the computer and potter around, and by the end of it, it was much better than the professional mix we tried to do in a big studio. So there's nothing wrong with I'd love Word not to get out too much, but it's at the end of the day, give me a rubber band and a cardboard box, and I can probably come up with something.
Yeah, pretty soon you're going to be doing scores for like $1, and they'll be the best scores of all time.
Done a few of those.
Yeah.
Done a few of those.
One thing I've always wanted to one thing I try to stress to my audience is I don't think not a lot of people truly understand the importance and the brilliance of what a score does to a movie. And I think one of the brilliant things that people do sometimes is they'll show a movie without the score and how differently it sounds. Like you hear Jaws without the score, or you hear any movie. What do you think is the perfect example of a film if you took the music out where it would be completely different?
Well, I once did it as an experiment. In fact, we're sort of driving by where I did the experiment. We did a lecture at the Lincoln Center about animation.
Right.
And I showed the starting scene with the music from Prince of Egypt, and then I showed the same sort of wave in Madagascar 2 or whatever it was, and just juxtaposed the two pieces of music. it's nearly the same scene. It's a lot of water, etc. And I think they got it. That music will change the tone completely.
Yeah, it completely does. Now, I think one thing...
Oh, no, I know what I did. I put Hawaii Five-0. I put the title music of Hawaii Five-0, with those crashing waves.
Yeah.
Over the parting of the Red Sea. That was...
I would love to see that. Hey, if you ever do that again, please invite me out. I would love to be there to see
right.
that. I want to see... Now, Mr. Zimmer, I think one thing I love about your scores is that every score you do is different, but yet it still has the Hans Zimmer signature to it. Like the other day, I was watching a commercial and I heard 2 notes in the commercial, and it was your Superman theme, and I immediately knew that it was you. But somehow you make a different score every time. So where's that balance of not duplicating yourself?
I don't know. It's sort of a big philosophical question, which actually is the question I kept asking in Superman,
Yeah.
Where does DNA come in and where does free will come in?
Right.
And I try to reinvent myself all the time, and sometimes I succeed more than other times, but, it's the same with Ennio Morricone. I can tell an Ennio Morricone score on the first note. And I don't know how he does it. I have no idea. But, and I suppose that's the thing. We are all different. I mean, one of the things I'd love to do, for instance, I think the great unmade documentary is, every kid can buy a guitar. Every kid can have a Fender Stratocaster. But Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and, the kid down the pub sound completely different on this thing. And it just somehow enhances their individuality, something that brings out who we really are. And I think music does that in a sort of surprising way. And I don't think people really notice it.
Right. No.
They don't, it amplifies the individuality as opposed to subdue it.
I completely agree.
Hang on, I'm just getting out of the car thing.
Okay.
Here we are in New York.
You're in New York?
We're in New York, and we're just about to leave for lunch.
Okay.
At our premiere last night, and I actually got to play the music live at the at the party after the premiere, which was a lot of fun.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, I can't even imagine being at the premiere last night. I mean, I saw the movie again last night. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. Can I ask you one more question before you go?
Yes, of course.
Right.
Well, it's not about me going. It's about me getting in an elevator. It will be cut off. But I'll just wait.
Okay.
Go on.
Well, sorry. It's just an honor to speak with you. One of the things I always found brilliant about scores, and you look at something like Inception, where Inception leaves a lot up to the imagination at the end as to what's going on. But I feel like I want to ask you, as a score writer, as a film composer, do you ever worry that your music could give away clues too early on? Like, I mean, not that you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, of course. But here's, hang on. Let me just do one thing. Let me just hug this man goodbye.
Okay.
See you whenever, if ever. Sorry.
No worries.
Music editor leaving to go back to LA. This is a bit quieter here. I can actually sit down and talk to you. But if you look at Inception and if you look at any of Chris's scripts, it gives you all the information all the time, the characters, everything. It's just there comes a key moment where he sums it all up and all to place. I'm sort of trying to. Of course, I try to do the same with the music.
Right.
It's a game. It's like this naughty little game, and we have a little giggle about it. Ooh, this will go and pay off here, and this will go and resonate here, and this will mean something different later.
When you work on a film like Inception, though, I mean, listen, the audience is gonna go home and have all their theories about what happened, whether or not Leo was dreaming the whole time.
Right.
Do you? I mean, and I know you're not going to tell me, but do you know what's really happening in the film? Does Chris say, Mr. Zimmer, this is where it becomes a dream, this is where it's not a dream? Do you know that? Because I feel like you should have to know that if you're the composer.
We talked about everything, and we talked about that, and at the same time we had this sort of funny way of wouldn't ever really properly ask him, and he wouldn't ever properly tell me. And, I had the little Gradle thingy, and I'd try it out and see how long it would stay upright, etc. Because that's a real shot. That's not an effect shot.
Right.
So we sort of both decided to have our own private theories about what would happen. So giving anything away. I mean, I'm not going to give it. I'm not even going to tell you what I thought.
Right. No, I wasn't going to ask you either. I just wanted to know if.
But I absolutely had. I knew what I was aiming for.
Right.
And that's the important thing.
Now,
Kevin, I'm so sorry we're out of time.
Okay. All right, I'll go. Mr. Zimmer, it was an honor to speak with you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations to you. It is one of the best scores I've ever heard in my life, and it makes me cry every time I listen to it, man.
Thank you.